clean up on this part?
Just wanted to introduce Steve. Want to come up, Steve?
You bet.
And
back in the hot seat?
Yeah, well, something comfortable. Just wanted to let everybody know, let the council know that we have an agreement in principle at this point. Steve wanted some assurance that the entire council felt comfortable with the situation as we are in right now, because he has an obligation with the National Guard that he needs to work out, and some other things as he makes the transition. So just he was coming down to do a little house hunting, I understand.
Yes, sir.
And hopefully was successful.
I was.
Good.
Excellent.
And Ted and I had visited with Steve on Sunday, right, Sunday noon, and agreed on a pay level, which would be the city's step 6, with a 6-month performance and incentive review, and that was agreeable to Steve. So there's just everything else is pretty much dictated by city standard, vacation, sick leave, all the PERA and cafeteria plan. So everything else is pretty much laid out that way, but we don't necessarily have a completed agreement at this point.
Did you find out about PERA?
Are you a PERA
I am.
member?
Yes.
So we would just reactivate that? Okay. Because you would have the option to go with another plan if you wanted to.
Well, PRA is good for everybody else. It's good for me.
Okay.
Any questions or feedback that you have, Steve, for the council, or any explanation, I guess, more detail about the Guard commitment?
Well, first off, I want to thank the council for showing faith in me and being able to be your administrator. I'm extremely excited. It was great to just walk through the streets this afternoon and do a little house hunting, and as I said, I think we found something that's going to work out quite well. And it's close, so that's good. Kathy had sent out a document earlier, but the attorney needs to take a look at that and do some cleaning up. And I talked about a couple of things that were different than what we had talked about, and so we'll get those new numbers and facts for the council, especially with regard to some moving expenses. A little high on the paper, so I want to bring that down and be responsible about that. With respect to the National Guard, I just all I wanted to do was to ask for just an open mind or thought about my continuance on a weekend basis, and I'd like to have an opportunity to talk to the committee a little bit more, maybe just informally, about what that would entail and get your feedback from it. That's probably about it. The unit that I belong to right now is being mobilized to go to Kuwait for a year. I am off that. I'm not going. I've already made that very clear. They offered me the position of the first sergeant. I said absolutely. Now for sure I'm not going. I didn't want to do that. But they asked if I would be willing to stay on in a drill status while they are gone. And there's a couple of things about that I want to make sure that everyone's clear about and get your input before we make a final decision.
That would entail 1 year total?
They will be gone. They'll be gone for a year. I am eligible to retire at any point. So one of the things that would happen is if the unit for some reason got mobilized again, I would be able to retire immediately. However, the likelihood of that happening with the battalion already gone is very slim, because there's not enough people left back to go on another deployment. So the chances of that happening are very slim. And the way that things work nowadays, with units spend a certain amount of time planning to going, and then they get 3 to 5 years back before they get put back in the cycle to go again. So the opportunity to get deployed again is very, very slim.
But my question was, what about the drill? Would that be once a month or,
Correct.
and then maybe, a couple of weeks or a month in summer?
There's a 2-week annual training. Unfortunately, the one that my unit is currently looking at is in May because they're supporting the unit that's going to mobilize. So I would need to talk to my commander of my unit and get out of that. I don't think that would be much of a problem to get out of that. So then, yes, it would be, at the most, it would be a Friday, Saturday, back on Sunday type deal. And Friday would be probably a half-day work here, and just I have to be up in West St. Paul at 5 o'clock, something like that.
All right, any thoughts on this?
Don't have a problem with that?
Yeah, I assured Steve too that we would never, I don't think anybody on the council would ever prevent somebody from serving their nation. But I wanted to let him know too that we, as a council, feel pretty strong about getting them on board and putting them to work here too. So we'll continue those discussions and.
I would appreciate that. I wanted to be very clear, because when I was in Victoria is when 9/11 occurred. And when 9/11, the whole world changed, especially for folks over in the military. And I went from a weekend-a-month drill status to being deployed 3 times. That kind of scenario is very unlikely to ever happen again because of the way we're situated in the world. Is it possible? Yes, but with my unit already deployed, it's highly unlikely. At the time, I'd been accused that work had become the part-time and guard had become the full-time. I thought that was a little unfair based upon what was happening around the world and how we were all being impacted. That was certainly a very minority viewpoint, and I received a lot of support from everyone else in the community at the time who understood what the effects were having on me and on my family. But I think with very good communication, which we need to establish anyway, if you saw that things weren't getting done because of outside interference, whether it was the guard or whether it was something else, I would certainly want to know about that ahead of time so that I could make the proper adjustment. I would never let that interfere or anything else.
Appreciate that.
Yes, appreciate that. And I do think that, part of the reason that we chose you was because of your personal choices, and we have to trust your decisions sometimes. So,
I remember having to run out of council meetings to go on ambulance calls because there was no one else available when I was in Lanesboro, and that's
so it's, yes.
sometimes duty calls, but I think we can mitigate that pretty well in this scenario. And actually, there may be some opportunities for savings back to the city because if we elect to go with the guard health care, then I wouldn't require that money from the city, and we could make some adjustments there as well.
Thanks. Anything else, anybody?
When would you
That was
be available?
that's the $30,000 question. We had talked about 11 April, and that would probably be the latest that I would like to start.
Excellent.
Nice.
If that works for everybody, if that works for the staff, find room for me.
Actually, the 12th is the start of the new pay period, so if you'd like an extra Monday off. Starting on Tuesday, better for payroll.
Oh, I like you, Kathy, already. Call it the 12th, yes. But you wouldn't kick me out of here if I showed up on the 11th,
No, you could
would you?
show up.
Okay.
Sooner the better.
Absolutely.
Wear your painting clothes, you can paint the office.
Well, it looks fine to me. I've lived in foxholes for weeks on end, so this is very plush.
Yeah.
And then the only other thing is, I know you wanted to talk about the strategic planning process later on in the agenda, and I apologize. I'm probably just gonna